This is still hard for me. This one is still a work in progress for me to accept about myself. Hello, and welcome to this beautiful setting on the water. I am outside enjoying, the tail end of summer. It's actually really hot out. I don't know why I'm in a long sleeve, other than the fact that it's like this beautiful pink color, which also helps keep me calm, and I need to stay calm because I've been anxious all day. If you watched my PTSD video I did a few months back, you'll know that one of my triggers is medical, and I have a medical test today that's very triggering for me. The last 2 times I've had it, I had uncontrollable panic attacks, and they couldn't book it till 5 p.m. So I've had all day to look forward to it, which is why it felt like the right day to sit down and talk about anxiety and eating. I have mentioned in my other recent video the truth about my weight loss, as well as in many other videos where I've discussed my journey with mental health, that I really struggle with eating when my PTSD, or even more so my generalized anxiety disorder, is kind of in what I would consider like a flare-up. Mental health is a journey, which means there is ups and downs, and when I am on a down and I'm really struggling with my mental illness, I also very much struggle to eat, which is a part of my mental illness. And I think we often talk in society about emotional eating, but we don't often talk about the other side of it, those of us who struggle to eat when we're stressed or overwhelmed, depressed, dealing with anxiety, whatever it might be. And I've had so many of you reach out to me when I do kind of touch on the topic and say that it is something you struggle with, and I know that I'm not alone in this. And I've kind of felt alone, and I've had to come up with my own coping strategies. And so if me sharing my coping strategies can help anybody else, then that's what I want to do. And before I continue, I just want to give a trigger warning. I will be talking about, obviously, eating, mental health, weight loss, EDs, all of that kind of stuff. So if any of that is triggering for you, I just want to give you that warning up front, that is obviously the contents of today's video. I also want to say that keep in mind, when you're in the comment section, that other people reading those comments may also struggle with these same things. So if you're here to pass judgment on me and my experience, you are also passing judgment on those who also struggle with this. And I would really love to try to keep the comment section a safe space and a respectful place for those of us who deal with this, because it's not easy, and I can't speak for everybody else, but for myself, it is probably the part of my mental health that I struggle to accept the most, and that I experience a lot of guilt and self-judgment around. So I would just ask that you keep the comment section like a respectful, safe space, because that's what I try to create here on my channel, is a safe space where everyone can feel accepted and welcome. And so that's what I want to do with this video. Now, I have always been what I call an emotional uneater, ever since kind of the beginning. I would say the beginning of my mental health journey was when I was probably about 8 years old. I believe that's when I actually developed PTSD. But my actual first bout of diagnosed mental illness was when I was 13, 14, and dealing with situational depression related to my vision loss and subsequent bullying. And so ever since then, I have struggled with this. And when I am in my healthy periods, when my mental health is really strong, I'm a total foodie. I love food. I love eating all food. I was never a picky eater growing up. My favorite foods are sushi, so raw fish, and Indian, so spicy food with lots of flavor. So I'm certainly, I wouldn't have ever considered myself a picky eater. Growing up, I ate everything. And when I struggled initially at 14, it was I just had no appetite, zero appetite, was not hungry at all. And my family, had to try to help me cope. And I actually had lots of stomach pains, stomach problems. We would do things like a lot of protein shakes, for a while I drank those like Ensure meal replacements, which truly I would not recommend using meal replacements unless you're truly not eating. I don't think there's any proper replacements for food unless there's a medical need for it. And so that was kind of like how we got through that period. And then I later worked with a team of medical professionals to help me. I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, which runs in my family. My mom has struggled her whole life, and through a change in diet, we essentially completely solved IBS. And if we stick to that kind of way of eating and not eating the foods that give us flare-ups, we're totally fine, and we don't experience any symptoms of IBS. If we eat the foods a lot that give us flare-ups, which, you know, we enjoy those foods, so we do from time to time, and if we eat them once or twice, we're totally fine. I'm sorry, I'm talking for you, but
oh no, you're
we're the
absolutely
same.
right.
So
yeah.
If we eat them like once or twice, it's fine. But if we like go on vacation and we just keep eating the foods that are triggering for our digestive systems, then we'll have an IBS flare-up, and we now know kind of like how to self-treat. So if you want a totally separate IBS video, I'm happy to do that, but I did want to like share that is a part of my health as well. I am a more sensitive body physically. My body is more sensitive to foods, so I do just generally have to be a bit careful about what I eat. But it's after years and years and years of doing the right thing, my body has become much less sensitive as like the inflammation has gone down. But anyways, that aside, when I really started struggling again, and I struggled kind of up and down through the years, but when it got, I would say, like really bad, was when I was diagnosed with PTSD and generalized anxiety following my accident when I was 20. I'm fairly certain. Yeah, I was 20 when that accident happened. It was like about 2 weeks after my 20th birthday, and I was finally diagnosed, I want to say, like around the June time period. So happened in February, diagnosed around June with kind of the full scope. It was suspected to be PTSD in like March. So yeah, anyways, that's just a bit of a timeline that's probably unnecessary. But yeah, I've felt very like alone in it, and I guess I want to share this because when I have talked about it, a number of you have come to me privately and shared some things that you think could be at play here. And when I started to research it further, like it completely resonated and made sense. And it kind of like helped me understand myself better and really feel less alone. And, you know, I'm lucky that I've always had a supportive family, and they really understand. They understand my eating, and they understand how to support me in that to recover and get strong again when I'm in a low period. But not everybody has that, and so maybe if this resonates with you and you see yourself in some of this, you can reach out for professional help. But you can also maybe share this or share the articles linked below with loved ones who might be struggling to understand, and it might help them. Because when I shared it with my mom, she was like, yep, that makes sense, but she already kind of understood it. Whereas for me, like, I felt like I was the only one. So seeing it, like, seeing my basically exactly me written down was like, wow, other people really do deal with this. I'm gonna stop being so vague. I'm being very vague. But it's called ARFID, which is Avoidant Restrictive Food Intake Disorder. Now, I'm going to be clear, I'm not formally diagnosed, but I have discussed this with my therapist, and she agrees that this is, you know, most likely this is what I'm dealing with. But obviously she doesn't have the power to formally diagnose because she is not a psychiatrist, which is who does the formal diagnosing. And to be honest, like, having a formal diagnosis for it or not, whether I have it or just exhibit behaviors, doesn't really matter to me. All that matters is knowing how to deal with it and knowing how to cope, and knowing that, you know, this is what it is, and whether I have it or not, these are the behaviors I exhibit, and so I just have to cope with that. And ARFID is technically classified as an eating disorder, but the major thing that differs from other forms of is that it has nothing to do with body image. And in fact, those struggling with ARFID are aware that they are often underweight and are actually concerned about that and actively trying to gain weight. And that is absolutely how I've always been. I've always, whenever I'm in these periods of low eating, I'm always actively trying very hard to consume as many calories as I can to keep weight on. And when I kind of am in recovery and I'm in an upswing, I'm like happily eating everything I can to gain a bit of my weight back. So that is kind of one of the biggest differentiators between traditional EDs and ARFID. There's different types of ARFID. You can be kind of born with ARFID, or you can develop it later in life as an adult. And then there's kind of two main types. One is that it's textural. So these would be classified as extreme picky eaters. And it's a texture thing or a color thing. It's more of a sensory element. So you'll see, I can't think of the numbers. I'm going to link a bunch of information both about textural and sensory ARFID as well as anxiety, PTSD related ARFID down in the description box, as many things as I can find, because I've done a lot of research. And there is like a percentage of the autistic community or those who deal with sensory processing disorders who also deal with sensory related ARFID. And so that's kind of one element of it, which is not at all what I struggle with. And then there's the other element, which is often developed later in life and is triggered as a coping mechanism to deal with PTSD, anxiety, or other forms of mental illness. And this is kind of like you can officially have it or you can exhibit the behavioral symptoms as coping mechanisms. And to be clear, when you're dealing with PTSD or anxiety, you can develop any form of an ED as a coping mechanism, but ARFID is a very common one for people to develop, and it is, at least again, the behavioral symptoms is what I personally have developed. And so I go kind of in and out of it. When I'm struggling, I exhibit all the ARFID behaviors, and when I'm not struggling, I'm totally fine with eating and I have no problems. So I'm going to share with you specifically some of the behavioral symptoms of ARFID that I personally deal with and kind of talk through some of those. And then I'm going to share my coping strategies of how I try to consume calories and how I try to consume as much nutrition as I can during these periods. A sudden refusal to eat food, particularly food that a person used to enjoy. This is absolutely me. Like I said, I've never been a quote picky eater. All of a sudden there was a laundry list of food that I couldn't eat or wouldn't eat, and a very short list of food that I could or would eat. And it was very hard because I still love those foods when I'm struggling and I still really want to eat them. I just quite literally feel like I can't, and I feel like I can't for numerous reasons, which we will get into as we continue to read through this list of behavioral symptoms of ARFID. No appetite for no known reason. Absolutely. My appetite absolutely plummets. In fact, the very idea of eating makes me feel nauseous. When I would say I'm generally quite a hungry person, I really enjoy eating, and all of a sudden I'm just no appetite. Like food's completely unappealing to me, and I don't really feel the sense of hunger. And even when I do feel hungry and I really want to eat, I find it very difficult to.
Very slow eating.
Is that the next one?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were literally commenting on me, because it's true. Very slow eating. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I would say I'm like a normal to slow eater anyways. Like I've never been a fast eater, but when I am struggling with my eating, I could take an hour and a half to try to eat something. And this is where I want to share one of my coping mechanisms or strategies that's really helped me. And I also, while I'm sharing these coping strategies, I want to say, like, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professional. I'm not saying that this will help you. This is just what helps me. One of the strategies I use is watching TV or YouTube or scrolling on TikTok while I'm eating, and eating alone. when I'm eating around people and all there is to distract me is simply conversation, and oftentimes people are like, "Ooh, this is so yummy," like people are talking about the food, and I'm smelling lots of food. It's just really hard. So if I am able to kind of eat well distracted by something I'm enjoying, like a comedy special, like something that brings me joy, I find it much easier to eat because I'm almost able to like passively eat without realizing I'm eating, and that helps me get more food in than if I'm focusing on trying to eat. If I'm just focusing on like trying to eat my meal and I'm sitting there with people who are eating and expecting me to be eating and they're finished and I'm like not even halfway, like it brings me even more anxiety. So if I can just kind of like be distracted while I'm eating, that's very helpful for me. And eating alone, because then it's like there's nobody's expectation of me and I can just kind of like focus on eating. But all in all, even if I'm eating with other people, which I totally can do, I just like to be in some way very distracted by that, like thinking about and talking about and doing something other than just like focusing on food. Difficulty eating meals with family or friends. Yeah, I mean, I kind of just explained that. It's much easier for me to eat alone and distracted than it is for me to eat with people or well just focusing purely on food. No longer gaining weight. Absolutely. Typically during these periods I lose weight. Depends how long these periods last. If I can get them under control in like under a week, which I've absolutely done, then generally my weight isn't affected, but at times this has stretched for weeks or even months. And so yeah, of course in that period I'm not consuming as many calories as I need to be or should be, and so I do stop gaining weight or lose weight. And one of the final symptoms or behavioral side effects that I experience and exhibit is a fear of vomiting or choking. This is one of the hardest parts. If you've heard me talk about when I have anxiety attacks, so my panic attacks, I would consider my panic attacks and anxiety attacks to be distinctly different things. My panic attack is generally something that's triggered by like PTSD, like a medical thing. My anxiety attacks are just purely like an adrenaline rush that can happen, frankly, completely randomly when I'm struggling with anxiety. So when I have an anxiety attack and the adrenaline is rushing through me, something I struggle with a lot is severe nausea, and I have actually thrown up twice. And I mean, I've had way more anxiety attacks, and I've only thrown up twice, so it's not really that significant a number, but I always without fail feel like I'm going to throw up. And for me, my safe space is being in the bathroom. It's where I feel that I can control my breathing the most, and I feel safe because I am near a toilet if I need to, which for me, being blind is important because I can't like actively look around and see where a bathroom is if I needed to like get there quickly. So being near one makes me feel safe. Because usually I'm struggling with these ARFID behaviors when I'm struggling with my anxiety and actively getting anxiety attacks, I fear vomiting. Like I fear like the more I eat, if the anxiety attack comes and the adrenaline is rushing, the more I've eaten and the more I have in my stomach, the more there will be to feel nauseous and get sick. And so that's a big fear of mine. And I will actually like physically gag on foods that are outside of kind of like a small list of foods. Like if I tried to eat raw fish, which I love, absolutely I would actually physically gag. And I deal with a fear of choking specifically around vitamins, which is something that I take a lot. I take vitamins regularly, and I especially try to take my vitamins during times of struggle because it is a way for me to get some supplements, nutritional value that I'm not getting from eating food or enough food. And so yeah, I have both a fear of vomiting and a fear of choking. Vomiting related to eating food, choking related to taking supplements. I have had 3 like pretty severe choking episodes in my life, 2 when I was a child and 1 this past year, which was on a vitamin, which I think is what kind of triggered that. But so what I will do in order to cope specifically with the fear of choking on vitamins is I will, if they are capsules, I will open the capsule and pour it into my mouth and then drink water. I will mix it into some juice and drink it. So I will just drink it. It's much easier for me than swallowing an actual pill. If it's a hard pill, I'll cut it in half to take it in smaller size or crush it depending on how big it is. So I'll just like come up with ways to still be able to take the supplements, just in a way that isn't like triggering for me or bring me anxiety. So those are kind of some of the symptoms that I deal with, but there is more than just those symptoms, and I'll link those down below. Now I want to talk about kind of the list of foods that I do eat. Some of these are extremely common ARFID foods, which is very funny. I didn't realize I was there was like a whole group of other people in this world that have the exact same list of like safe foods, but I guess they are that way for a reason. Like all of us find some form of comfort in them, or a lot of us do. So a lot of that consists of like toast, cheese and crackers. It's a lot of carb and dairy, which is funny because those are things I don't really eat a ton of. Gluten and dairy are two things that if I eat too much of can be triggering for IBS. But I have some of the foods back here, so oh, don't fall into the water. Real fruit gummies. This is something that I enjoy eating. I find really easy to eat. So that is definitely one of them. Arrowroot baby cookies or animal crackers. These are the Trader Joe's ones. Always have some of these on hand. Just again, it's like a basic, very plain flavor. There isn't much flavor to it. Basically, the things that I eat have to either be low in flavor or a very simple texture. Any form of like a baby cracker or baby cookie is definitely something that is comfortable, easy for me to eat. Real fruit gummies, like Welchers, that kind of thing. Those ones are Trader Joe's. Juices. This is a huge thing for me. This is not on the list of things for a lot of people, but it is easy for me. That is cold pressed juices and smoothies. So one thing that I will often do is order like a juice cleanse, like a 3 or 5 day juice cleanse. They often come with like between 6 to 8 juices or smoothies a day. And I know that people are very against juice cleanses and smoothie cleanses and all of those kinds of things, which I completely understand. But for me, during times where I'm struggling to eat solid foods, it is a really good way for me to get in nutritional value because I can consume a lot of fruits and a lot of vegetables. Something like a salad, which I traditionally love, is a hard no. Raw vegetables, heck no when I'm struggling to eat. But if I eat like a fruit and veggie smoothie or juice, easy, I love it. And so green smoothies, cold pressed juices with things like ginger, lemon, apple, kale, celery, all of those kinds of things is a really good thing for me to consume, and I will try to consume as many of them as I can. Basically, I try to consume as many calories as I can through things like pasta, toast, cheese, potatoes, mashed potatoes, french fries, chicken nuggets, those kinds of foods. Is how I try to get calories, and then how I try to get nutrition is through vitamin supplements and through smoothies and cold pressed juices. This one's a big one for me, macaroni and cheese, and any kind of like plain pasta, but macaroni and cheese is a definite favorite. And I would say like french fries and chicken nuggets is a definite favorite if I'm up to eating like full meals. Those are probably the full meals I'm gonna eat. This is like the Stouffer's microwavable one. It's very quick, it's very easy. And I also try to eat at low anxiety periods. It's funny, I know a lot of people who struggle with anxiety feel most anxiety in the morning when they wake up. That's generally a time when I don't feel anxious because I've just woken up out of a relaxing state, so I don't have panic or anxiety yet. So eating a lot in the morning and having something that I can make really quickly so I can get food into me very fast is always good. So that's another one. Applesauce, this is a hit or miss. Again, I like it because getting like an unsweetened kind of natural applesauce gives me it gives me some kind of nutrition and nutritional value, but the texture, depending on how bad I am, the texture can make me gag. So this is kind of like a hit or miss, but I wanted to mention it. I will do things like plain yogurt, yogurt with like almonds and a bit of honey or maple syrup, a kefir yogurt drink. So again, it's just getting like a little bit of nutritional value into me. Obviously, zero caffeine. Any form of caffeine is going to be triggering because it's going to spike my anxiety levels. And so I avoid all forms of caffeine, which sucks because I really love caffeine, but when I'm anxious, I kind of have like natural caffeine flowing through me. Ramen noodles is a good one, and we'll try to hide an egg in there or even 2, kind of like just mash it up into it. How do you make it, Mom? What do you do with the egg?
what's this one? Sorry.
Ramen.
Ramen.
When you put the egg in it, how do you make it?
Yeah, I just make it as per the instructions, and then at the end I just add in an egg and just, you know, mix it in. And it's,
yeah, so I can't really like taste or feel the egg, but again, a bit more nutrition than just having ramen without an egg. So those are kind of all the things that I can think of that I eat, and kind of how I balance consuming carbs with consuming nutrition, and some of the coping strategies like eating alone, eating while distracted. I definitely really struggle to eat out in public, of course, so kind of just trying to eat mostly at home. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Like I said, I judge myself enough for this. I have a lot of embarrassment and guilt. I have enough of my own embarrassment and shame and guilt, so this was actually extremely vulnerable for me to talk about. I feel like a weirdo sharing these things. Like, I feel like I don't know. It's hard to understand, like, the feeling of truly wanting to eat and feeling truly unable to. It's not something that if you're mentally well, you could probably ever relate to. It's an awful feeling, and I wish it upon no one, and I've come a long way, and these periods for me are few and far between now, which I'm very grateful for, and I'm lucky that I have a supportive system around me that understands my challenges, and that understands that this truly is very difficult, and I'm doing my best to get well. I'm doing my best to be healthy. Supports me in rebuilding again every time that I'm in a low slump. So yeah, this was really hard for me to talk about. I'm embarrassed, frankly. I wish I could like come on here and be like, if you struggle with this, like, don't be embarrassed, don't be ashamed. But I'm not there yet, you know? I am there with a lot of my stuff, PTSD, anxiety, my disability, like all of those things, I'm fully there. I'm like, no shame, no embarrassment, this is who I am, I own it proudly. This is still hard for me. This one is still a work in progress for me to accept about myself. So yeah, it was a hard video for me to make, and I hope you guys can respect that in the comments and make this a safe space. And if this is something that you also deal with, just know that you can find help and that you will get through it. And you might have ups and downs, but the ups are worth living for. And I'm gonna link a lot of resources down below. I hope this has maybe helped you understand yourself a little bit better. Maybe some of these strategies will work for you. And if you have other coping strategies that work for you, please also share them in the comment section below, because they might help other people or myself. So help a girl out, you know? And that's really it for this video. I don't know. I hope you enjoyed it in some way. And until next time, you can click over here to meet the Dwell team who's renovating my space, or you can click over here to hear a crazy story time about this fire alarm situation. It was wacky. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.